think you will have to. And this. And one more. And this one, I hope I did that correctly. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland, and I am delighted to have on as my guest. Listen to the beautiful first name, Fenella Speece. Fenella, welcome.
Thank you, Louis. Good morning to you and everyone else.
I was saying to you off air, I had never heard it's such a beautiful name.
Oh, thank you.
You were telling me, do you mind? You were telling me it's Scottish.
It's
Celtic. I'm sorry.
The roots are Celtic, and it's a very well-known name in places like Ireland. But the Irish version is usually Fenella. But the Fenella that I use is actually rooted more in the Isle of Man. It's a Manx name, and my mother was Manx, so that's where I got it from.
That's wonderful. And when I hear Isle of Man, I think of the concerts that they would have there, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know. Now I have to check. At my age, I have to check. It's like, were they Isle of Man or?
It's famous for the TT motorcycle races.
Okay.
And the Grand Prix motorcycle races, and also Manx cats come from the Isle of Man, the cats that have no tails.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. Yeah,
it's a tiny little island with a far reach.
Yeah, far reach. That had to be wonderful growing up there for your mom, right?
It was, but she, the war came along and she moved away and never went back to live there again. But we vacationed there and it was wonderful.
It's got to be beautiful also, correct?
Yep, all green and those beautiful little country stone walls and
yeah.
Thatch cottages, nice.
Yet and nicely separate from other things in the world, which has got to, I shouldn't comment on that. So a little bit about yourself. Sounds idyllic to me.
Yeah. So you'd like me to share who I am and what I do, right?
Yeah. First about you personally.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
My name is Fenella, and obviously my roots are in the UK. I was born in London and in the late 50s, and was brought up in London. Decided to go to the north of England to university and to train as a registered nurse in my youth. Then decided to travel the world, where fate would have it that they threw a pair of blue eyes and an American accent in my path, which derailed the plans for my life. And I ended up marrying this crazy American, and we ended up living in the States. In 1988, we got married and I moved to the States. And since he was military, we traveled around very many places, and we finally ended up in San Diego, which of course is a very big military town. But even once he left the military, we loved it here so much that we have stayed.
I think that is absolutely wonderful. Even London, the other things, I've got to ask you the question, Marmite, love it or hate it?
Adore it. Was brought up on it. Eat it at least once a week here, and people
I've got my jar. Yeah, I've got my jar.
People think I'm totally nuts, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. People think I'm totally nuts, but now see, we've bonded. We have absolutely bonded.
All right, bonded over Marmite. I love it.
Marmite, yeah, that's beautiful, because I know this sounds very ignorant, but I had assumed for a number of years that if you were from the UK or that people liked Marmite. So I kind of thought, and then I had guests on and said, "Oh God, I hate that. I hate that." And I've looked it up, and that's the thing with Marmite: you love it or you hate it. There's no in between. It's like I can eat it once in a while or not, whatever. I made a pasta sauce with Marmite, and people freaked out when I was talking about it on air. You did what? It wasn't my favorite pasta sauce, but I love it. Roasted with potatoes. Forgive me, I'm going off.
Oh, no, a little bit of Marmite for flavoring is wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. I had a lot of Marmite in the one with the the pasta sauce. I overdid, but it was good. It was interesting. I just know how to do it better next time. And the on toast with some smashed avocado. Oh, sorry. Now I'm hungry. Okay, so a little bit about We Companions. A lot about We Companions. Tell me how you connected with We Companions. And
yeah, that's the history of kind of, you know, how I ended up in the States, basically. Always a lover of animals. I was the youngest child in a family that were like me to animals. But along I came, and I believe I was born with this just innate passion for animals. And I think when you meet animal people, you tend to have this in common, that they always knew that they had a special connection with animals. I got my first guinea pig at 10. I had them all the way through till about 18 years old, but then I left home and traveled, as I told you. So guinea pigs weren't on the radar at that point. Move on several years to being married and having small children and landing in San Diego. If anyone is familiar with the beautiful Balboa Park here, that so many people go and wander through on a Sunday. There was an adoption event, actually a dog adoption event that was going on a Sunday. And sitting on the table was a little guinea pig in a cage. And of course, as soon as I saw it, it was like, oh my goodness, it's a guinea pig. Well, the guinea pig came home with us. And the person that adopted the guinea pig to me saw my excitement at the guinea pig and said, you know, no one here in San Diego actually, you know, organizes rescuing guinea pigs. Maybe you should consider that. So I was hooked up with another couple of passionate rodent people or animal people. And that was the start of, well, no one's doing it. There's a need. You seem to be a vulnerable type that will just take anything on. Let's go for it. So in 1998, I rescued my first couple of guinea pigs through someone who knew they needed to be rescued. And the rest is basically history. Took it on. You never take anything on like that without being educated.
Sure.
I educated myself. I actually went to the UK, to Cambridge, to the guinea pig hospital to train a little bit more extensively in the health of guinea pigs. I found myself a great guinea pig vet out here. And then it just started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And after about 5 years, my husband said, you know, that the bills are getting kind of large here. What should we do? So we moved forward and established what is now known as We Companion Small Animal Adoption as a 501c3 here in San Diego. So we've been a nonprofit since 2003, but I've been rescuing since 1998.
That's beautiful. And when you to open your heart like that to them is and they need, because a lot of people, and they're wonderful. They'll they'll take dogs in, they'll adopt, you know, instead of shopping for dogs, for cats, which is again wonderful, because guinea pigs aren't for everyone, rabbits aren't for everyone. You've really, and it's different, I believe, in the sense that there's always been a wealth of information. If you take in a cat, you probably know someone who's got a cat that can help you. Dogs, same thing. But the We Companions, they're guinea pigs, rabbits, etc.
A little bit more specialized.
Much more, I think much more. Go ahead.
And in the UK, I mean, I think most Brits had a guinea pig at some point in their growing up. They're very popular pets. They're nothing special. But in the US here, they are actually considered exotic pets, which is kind of weird to me. They're exotic pets. And they should be seen, if there is a need or a need for a wellness check or illness, by an exotic trained vet. You cannot take a guinea pig to a dog or cat vet. generally, you have to find a vet that is specialized in exotic care, which presents a lot of interesting issues here
Sure
in the
does.
States.
It sure does. And I agree, having had rabbits for decades, you've really got to. I mean, initially, again, 20 plus years ago, we would, when I say travel, it wasn't far, but it was like an hour and a half.
Yes.
Obviously one way to a vet who is, she's amazing. And she did a surgery on one of our rabbits where she had to remove half of the jaw.
Oh my.
And there was I can't remember if she said there's a 10% chance that it'll be okay or 20% chance. But the reality was, she said, without the surgery, we will need to euthanize her. She'll have a painful death. It came out great. I mean, it was just, the surgery was great. And I've talked to other vets, and again, in fairness, not exotic vets, that say, I would never even think of doing a surgery like that. And the importance of that vet, your veterinarian, is so important. Forgive me, Fenella, but I was speaking with a vet that I know the other day, and he was saying something. I stopped by to see his new dog at his office, and there was a call in about a chicken. Someone was asking, and then there was asking about another chicken. And I asked him, I said, Doc, do you get a lot of calls about, again, it's they're not dogs, they're not cats, they're not rabbits. And he said, I do. He said, I believe I'm the only one in the area that, and he's 70 plus years old. And he's wonderful. But it's just interesting. Again, you have to have someone, I know they have to learn, the vets need to learn, but I don't want them learning with my rabbit.
With your animal. Lou, you must have read the James Herriot books. The vet from Yorkshire, James Herriot.
Oops, I'm writing it down. Jane.
James, as in Jimmy, Jimmy James.
I got it.
James Herriot. Famous Yorkshire vet who wrote a series of books. The famous one is All Creatures Greatly Small, that was changed into a TV series and a movie. Okay. And that's kind of the traditional view in England of a vet. You know, they do their small animal practice where they see everything from a goldfish, a mouse, to a dog, cat, and then they go off on their farm visits and things. But it seems over the years that you either specialize in cats or dogs or cattle or horses or the small animals. There's very rarely a vet that is a master of all things, very rare, very rare.
That's, And I remember, Fenella, years ago, I had a vet on, I think I don't know if he was from England or Ireland, Pete Wedderburn, maybe Scotland, I don't know. But we connected, had him on a number of times, and I will never forget, we had an issue with a rabbit that at that time in the States, there really wasn't many options to treat. And I reached out to him because I was desperate for help. And I didn't want to just search it online and get people's opinions or experiences. I needed, he suggested something, and I will be forever grateful to him and grateful to the veterinarian who used, we went that method. I had to give daily penicillin shots and Panicure, etc. And it worked. But and it saved the rabbit's life. And I remember talking to the vet. Forgive me for going on and on about this, but I remember asking, I said, "What do you think?" What a local vet that has exotics in his practice, and he came around the corner. He said, "Hold on." Came around a corner, and he was peering over a coffee mug, and it said, "Please don't confuse your Google search with my veterinary medical degree." And then he agreed to try the treatment, saved her life. He was kind of teasing me, but it was, again, some people that specialize. And again, he was probably dealt with more rabbits where he was at than most vets in the States at that time.
Yeah. And the beauty was he never thought he got to the top of his profession. He was always open to researching and
Yes.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's always a
Beautiful.
danger of thinking you're,
You know it all. You know it
you
all.
have to be humble because
Yeah.
there's always more to learn.
Yeah. And again, we would have searched for a vet that would have worked with it, but the time it needed to be done quickly.
I'm
So,
glad
and it
it was
worked.
okay.
And again, it worked beautifully. We were amazed, just absolutely amazed. But that, again, the importance, I keep restating it, Fenella, like you were saying about having a vet that deals with guinea pigs, has some experience, rabbits, whatever the pet is, chickens, yeah, whatever. And
Yeah.
that's important. And you find more of them today, correct? Many more, or no?
They are available in California. There's a lot of places where there are not easily accessible exotic vets in the States. Very hard to find. We're very lucky in San Diego County. We have several choices. But, you know, since the pandemic hit, I mean, accessing veterinary care has been a little bit of a challenge, to say the least. I could be honest and say what it's been like. Our rescue has actually lost a couple of amazing exotic vets that we built a relationship up with for years. And so it takes a while to learn to trust a new partnership again. And our rescue deals with rabbits, guinea pigs, rats, hamsters, mice, chinchillas. So we might have an exotic vet that is amazing with rabbits, but maybe not so much with mice or rats. So we kind of have to navigate where the strengths lie. And we do it. We're very lucky. We have some amazing vets that help us out here, but we appreciate the strain that the vets have been under in the last few years. And it's been tough. It's been very tough.
When you were talking about, I'm looking at some emails that rescuing guinea pigs, tell me, rescuing them, taking them in, people dump them, like
all of the above, Lou. If you can just be creative and think where a guinea pig could end up, we've probably rescued it from there. We have rescued a lot from shelters. We've rescued a lot from private parties, and that could be for any reason, whether it's allergies, the kids have lost interest, the kids are going to college, we need to redecorate, you know, whatever those reasons for the private parties. But in the last couple of years, you know, there's been such an impact on pet ownership and consequently small pet ownership, that, you know, the big reasons are now financial. We're moving. I've lost my job. We're moving to a different state because we can't afford to live here in California.
And that I understand.
You can't deny that. But there continues to be a flood of animals that are acquired. Now, sometimes they come in acquired pregnant. They'll get pregnant. They'll be pregnant from the pet stores. Someone goes in, purchases a guinea pig, and within a couple of months, they've got 4 guinea pigs sitting in the cage looking at them. And some folks are amazing. They do their research. They go to the vet. They come to a rescue. They speak with experts. Others just are like, oh, this is fun for a while. They leave them all together. And by the time we get involved, we have 20 or 30. And all the females that we're bringing in are pregnant because they've never been separated. The human has never decided to stop the breeding cycle. So that purchase of 1 guinea pig in a matter of, you know, a year or so leads to a nightmare. So they've been put in dumpsters. We've been, just on Saturday, 2 guinea pigs were left by our door in a cardboard box. We've recently rescued some that were left by a mailbox. I mean, people are just dumping them all around because a lot of our local shelters and certainly our rescues are unable to take them in. So they're abandoning them. It's the same with the rabbits.
Yeah.
People seem to think that if they release them into a park, they're going to be fine. Or if I put them in a cardboard box, someone will come and pick them up.
Fenella, I've got to tell you, and I've heard that so many times over the years about, well, I thought, I see rabbits out in my backyard or front yard, so I figured it would be okay. And I say, well, I see kids playing, and if I had I wouldn't put them out. It's just, well, go find. It's
great.
The other thing that really irritates me about that, and about what humans do when they say, I adopted a rabbit or guinea pig or whatever, or bought a rabbit or guinea pig, which is awful with everything going on, always awful, but they to teach their child responsibility. My response is to them, why don't you have another child, and then you can have your child take care of the baby? I mean, it's your job as parents to teach your child responsibility. You don't need them experimenting with a living creature. And it's just, I cringe when I more than cringe. I'm maybe a little too outspoken when I hear that.
Right.
Probably accurately.
Right. So, and, this year more than ever, I have really struggled with this. It's like, what is the answer? What is the answer? Because we're in such a crisis right now. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. In the rescue world and the shelter world, especially here in California, we are in crisis. Now, it's going to take a lot to get out of this particular crisis, but I always try and think, okay, what is the future? What will change things? And people will say, well, you must stop selling guinea pigs in the pet store, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, but that's only one
aspect.
Aspect. If the consumer never went and bought an animal at the pet store, they would not sell them.
That's right.
Yeah. So it is getting to the consumer that don't do that. That will make a difference. It's not stopping animals. The big brand, can I say names on this show?
Absolutely. So I don't need to do the views and opinions expressed on Louis B. Free Radio Show or the views and opinions. You go ahead. I'm not doing a disclaimer. You say whatever you want. Fenella.
If, for example, Petco and PetSmart would stop. So years ago, Petco and PetSmart stopped selling dogs, cats, and rabbits years and years ago. And then they actually stopped selling the large birds. Has it made that much of a difference in our rescue crisis right now? No, we are still drowning under the number of unwanted dogs, unwanted cats, and unwanted rabbits. So stopping selling them in these big brand pet stores is not the only answer.
But it is a good thing. It's a
good start. It's a good start. The other issue is that these stores don't take responsibility for, okay, we adopted this hamster 2 weeks ago, but my little girl is afraid of it. And they come back 17 days after they purchased it. Well, they have a 2-week return policy.
Oh.
So they will then say, well, you're going to have to take it to the shelter, or you're going to have to take it to the rescue. Here's We Companion's number. If the pet stores took responsibility for the animals that they sell and had an established, well-run adoption corner center in their stores that they directed people to first when they came in to buy a small pet, that also would be a very good start if they took responsibility for the animals that they were selling, but they don't. They push them into rescues. And this is why we are drowning. There is no accountability for selling those pets.
And again, awful, absolutely awful. And the thought of people dumping them again, that's horrific to me. Well, I just don't understand that. On the other hand, you are overwhelmed. I know what you're saying in San Diego and parts of California, everywhere. I am friends with a lady that has a rabbit rescue locally. Overwhelmed, can't take. I just overwhelmed. So and there's
New
another
York
one
to California right now. Everybody is overwhelmed. Yet last night around 8 o'clock at night, I was finishing up at our store adoption center, and I got the saddest text from a girl. We've just pulled multiple hamsters, Syrian hamsters, from the shelter. And she said, I cannot believe this, but 6 more have been dumped, which means we have 20 hamsters in the shelter and we are full, which means that if today 6 more get dumped, there's nowhere for them to go in the shelter. The shelter staff are overwhelmed. Recently at one of our LA shelters, a lot of the staff were out with COVID, which is still an issue. They didn't even know that they were struggling so hard to take care of all the cats and the dogs and the public. They didn't even know if anyone was going into the small animal room over the weekend. They were so desperate, so short of staff. And so, saving lives is what we want to do, but there also has to be accountability for the quality of that care once the life is being saved. And the shelters don't get excellent funding. The public do not always realize that these small animals are in local shelters, so they tootle off to the pet store again. They don't even think to go to the shelter and adopt one. So the shelters are definitely drowning. We've taken care of one crisis last week, and then today is another crisis. It is one constant crisis after another with these groups of animals that are unwanted and being abandoned and that kind of thing. And we try and prioritize with certain animals that just need to come into rescue, pregnant mamas, but we are at the point that there are pregnant guinea pigs sitting in the shelters, and it is disgusting and it makes us sick. We know that those mamas should be with us and getting excellent prenatal care to make sure their delivery is safe, that the babies are safe and cared for, and then the boys are separated from the girls in a timely manner to stop the breeding cycle. And then we find them all good homes. And we cannot even do the basics with these really needy animals right now. It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, Fenella. And you just reminded me of something. I remember, and again, this was decades ago, going into, was it Petco? I think Petco, and just, we had rabbits, and I would go in and ask them, well, so do you, I'm looking for a female. Is this one female or, well, not sure. I said, you don't look and to see. I mean, it was, and I wasn't berating the employee, yet it's like, what the heck is going on? So you don't know in that glass pen or whatever, area, if they're male or female, but they're together. They're all, a bunch of them in there. And it just astounds me. Also, asking them questions about caring. And I don't mean this arrogantly. We learned a lot over the years. They don't know a good diet at that time. Forgive me. At that time, they knew some things. Well, you've got different kinds of hay. Which one should I get if I get a rabbit? And again, I didn't humiliate them. I said, think about that, but you really need to know what.
Right. So more thorough education, because these
Yeah.
pet stores should be training their
Yes.
staff
If you're selling them
to
with
sell
products,
the correct products to go with the animals.
if somebody
Absolutely.
adopts, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, they need education. Of course
they need
do.
education. And again, I don't blame the employee. Certainly I do management and the corporate, because again, even if somebody comes in and I say I adopted a rabbit from F5RS Rescue or Animal Welfare League or whatever, or Angels for Animals, and I need you to help me with what I need. What's a setup? What do I need? And they don't know. I think sometimes they guess, or they've heard from some customers, and that's key.
Yeah. Education isn't a hard thing. There are so many good educational tools out there that the pet stores could very adequately train their staff if they would put the time and the money into it.
Which they should be doing.
Of course they should. If you want to, offer excellence of service and knowledge, you got to train the staff. And I know there's a high turnover of people at these stores, but maybe if there was a little bit more money invested in their education and they really began to, understand and enjoy their work and feel like they were making a difference, and perhaps even offered a little better screening for people that walk in and say, oh, that's cute, I think I want to buy it. If the staff felt more empowered to be an animal advocate, maybe things would be better. Yeah,
certainly. Yeah, certainly. Because I've got to believe it's frustrating for some of the employees too, because they're not going to, certainly, maybe some do, spend their personal time researching it, but if they don't know, or if they're guessing, it's got to be awful for any animal, for guinea pigs, rabbits. Maybe they're good with dogs and cats. I don't know. But the problem with everybody overwhelmed and funding down, correct?
I don't think the funding has been increased. I mean, I'm not an expert with this, but I don't think the funding has been increased to compensate for this tidal wave of unwanted pets. Don't you remember, Louis, when the pandemic just started and all the shelters were just dancing and triumphant? Look, all the empty pens, we're empty. Yes, all the cages, the animals are gone. This joy of all these animals being placed, and God damn it if they aren't all being brought back now. And we, since the start of the pandemic, and we're not a big rescue, we have taken back, I think it's 422 animals that were previously adopted from us. 422 to the June of this year, from beginning of pandemic to June of this year. These are the animals we previously placed. They've been returned. And remember that throughout this pandemic, we are desperately trying to save as many as we can. So we've been we've been saving all those pregnant mamas from the shelters and the sick ones. So we're already full. But because our contract has said, we will take back your adopted pet at any time because we hold an umbrella over them for their whole lives, we take them back. And we have had to make room for 422 returned animals on top of being full.
It's a staggering number.
How you can do that?
Yeah.
And it's making room. It's creating enclosures and bins and trying to find volunteer staff to foster them, to take care of them. And it's a constant juggle. So as soon as you get a breathing space, which is not much of a breathing space, you then get the phone call. We've had 6 more hamsters brought into the shelter and we've got nowhere to put them. And you look at your house and you go, well, where am I going to put 6 more hamsters?
And it's got to be very, certainly frustrating, but very troubling. So you,
Well,
because you love, yeah, go ahead.
you know, at the beginning, I said, we connected with animals from a young age. You know that you have this passion for animals, right? This connection, this compassion for animals. So you're in the trenches trying to do this work with a flow, a tidal wave flow from a faucet that is never being turned off. It's just constantly coming, coming, coming. And you can't get out of it. You cannot get out of it. And you have to say, okay, I'm full.
Yeah.
But this is what we do. We want to save animals. We want to make a difference for these animals. Our hearts break every time we have to say no. So what is that doing to our mental health? There are many rescuers across the states, and I think in the UK, that are crumbling, not only with the effects on mental health from the pandemic, but they have tried to continue their rescue work through the pandemic. And it is taking a huge toll on our mental health.
Yeah.
And many are closing, which is not always due to mental health issues, of course, often financial or what have you. But this is all cumulative. And at the moment, you know, when you're in a crisis, your adrenaline is going. You just keep going, keep going, keep going.
And you worry about it.
At some point, that adrenaline's going to stop and you're going to go, whoosh.
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying, not personally, but well, I know when we were unable to take some rabbits in, and I was fortunately able to direct the people to somewhere where they could.
Yeah.
Yet you feel, again, not on your level, please, I'm not comparing, but you feel very badly.
You do feel bad, but there's
and
no
that's on a
tiny,
that's tiny, mine's tiny compared to yours.
But there's nowhere that's taking them right now without, you know, the worst. Well, is it the worst outcome? I don't know. If you've got too many animals in the system as such, that they are not getting the care they need, and there's just more and more coming, you can't place them. What is the alternative? You can't give them a quality life. And so when they end up in the shelters and we're all scrambling to try and save them from euthanasia, but the flow keeps coming, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm sure I would get flack for this, but isn't it kind of that they be put out of their misery of sitting in the shelters for months and months and months, if they're even given that opportunity? Because placing them in a safe home, the chances of that are so small. I don't know. I hate to even think like that as a rescuer, but desperate times are coming for, you know, desperate measures. What the hell are we doing with all these animals? Yeah. We can't cope. And we used to be able to transfer out of state. Well, guess what? Everywhere's experiencing the same issue. No one can cope with it.
And it's getting worse, correct?
It is definitely getting worse. I think we're probably coming to the peak this summer.
I hope so.
And because summer is always traditionally bad anyway, because people are off on vacation. Things generally pick up in the fall. But I think we're about to hit the worst. And I'm beginning to see it more on social media. I'm beginning to see more posts, you know, New York City shelters showing all the guinea pigs piled up in their back rooms in carriers, not even cages. They're in carriers because there's no cage space. There's no room and they're overrun with guinea pigs. And no one's adopting, because either they can't have pets in their place, the pet deposit is huge, they don't want to take on that responsibility, and good for them. If they can't take care of the pet, that's great. Don't take on the pet. But what are we doing with the animals that are flooding the system, and how do we stop that flow that is drowning us out.
When you, and I understand, Fenella. Oh, God, I did an ID. You're good time-wise, correct?
Yes.
For a little bit longer. The Louis
Yeah.
Be Free Radio Show, Brain from the Heartland, is copyright Be Free Radio Limited 2022, produced by the lovely Miss Bunny Face in cooperation with White Rabbit Productions. I'm talking with Fenella from We Companions, and it's wecompanions.org, wecompanions.org. I'm not excusing hoarding animals, but I don't want to say can understand. I can know, I don't know what word to use, how it happens. People don't want to say no. And then they become overwhelmed and don't have money and have too many cats, rabbits, guinea pigs, dogs, whatever. And it ends up, I'd like to believe, I guess, Fenella, that it starts with a good heart and they don't want to say no, and it gets out of hand.
It does.
It does.
Rescuing the rescuer is a syndrome we see a lot. I mean, rescuers, there's a fine line between rescuing and hoarding.
Yeah.
And I frequently say to myself, okay, am I willing to adopt out these animals? Am I willing to let them go, or can they only be for me? So that's the first question. Am I willing to let them go? Am I providing veterinary care that they need? Do I have the funds to do that? Yes. And if I can answer those two questions in a positive, then hopefully I'm not considered a hoarder, but a rescuer, because we have to be able to let them go and we have to provide adequate care. And that is food, housing, and veterinary care if they need it. The hoarders, that's a whole different podcast, Louis, that I think you'd have to get an expert.
Well, I'm saying I want to believe that most of them, those situations start with a good heart. It
starts with a good heart, but I don't know what happens.
Yeah,
but there is a switch to not being able to recognize that they are not caring for the animal. They will always say, I love these animals. I love them. I love them. They're my family. But they cannot see how the animals are suffering. So there's a huge
psychologically
there. Yeah. But rescuing the rescuer is a common thing. We see it frequently. People scan Craigslist and various other places. They see these desperate ads for, giving away this guinea pig. Oh my God, it'll be snake food. I got to go get it. So they go get it. But then what do they do with it? And then when they get the eviction notice, they have to place the 15 guinea pigs that they've rescued. And so it becomes an urgent situation. And we've seen it frequently, and we're seeing it a lot in the last year. But rescues are not responsive. See, this is also the issue, Louis, that I would love to talk at length at some point, not today, obviously. But rescuers do this as a heartfelt passion, right?
Sure.
So traditionally, there's an animal in need. In years gone by, yes, we'll take in this animal. Yes, they rush out, they'll drive hundreds of miles, they'll pick up the animal, they'll do magic, transform the animal, they'll find a home. All right. So we as in the rescues, have created an image of a group of people that will go above and beyond to rescue any animal in need. We will take over the responsibility and we'll take care of the animal. The person that acquired the animal took on initiative and they went and they got the animal. They purchased or what have you, the animal. But nowadays, the mental attitude is, okay, I don't want this animal anymore. It's got to go to a rescue because rescuers love animals and they'll take it and they'll place it. So shelters were created for stray animals. Rescuers Rescues were created, you know, to go outside of that system, maybe just pull from the shelters. Amazing group of people that will always want to rescue animals. Well, we have taken on that role of, it's an automatic with the public. Don't want this pet anymore. I got to give it to a rescue. Well, we've created this. How are we getting out of it? Because there's no responsibility on the owner's part to rehome that pet. The automatic thing is, I'm taking it to the shelter, I'm taking it to a rescue. And we've created this because we've done such a good damn job. Answer me that one. How do we get out of this mess that we've created?
Well, again, it's the other humans that are irresponsible. They always think, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll take it. Well, you know, and that's not a way to take any pet in. I do understand if people are moving somewhere or something. I mean, there are some, what do I want to say, exceptions, or some things that, and they may, or financially, they recognize that they're not going to be able to care for that animal. They understand the vet bills, whatever, the food, whatever, because a lot of people have gone into economic downturn and crisis, especially over these last couple of years. Yet it's too many people just saying, well, I'll take it to the shelter, I'll take it to the rescue. If it doesn't work out. And then you become overwhelmed. And it obviously weighs on you. And I was going to say, I can't imagine what that would feel like to be so dedicated and so loving and not be able to take in rescues, if you will.
Yeah.
Also, and somebody emailed me that they said that they, make sure I'm reading this right, that they foster and then get attached, which is great. And then they adopt, which is wonderful. That's not always the case. And so what's better? You foster for a while and then you take another one, you know, that gets overwhelming also. And then people feel guilty because, well, I can't take in another one now. It's great when that happens.
Yeah.
And I've heard that many times about people that have, you know, fostered and from fostering to adopting. It's wonderful, but there aren't enough fosters either.
There aren't enough. True.
Which is very, very troubling. And I hear how it weighs on you, and certainly so many others, that when they have to say no.
Yeah. The only thing there's enough of these days is the amount of animals that need to be rescued.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
And I don't know what the future will be, Louis. As I said, many rescues are closing. They just can't do it anymore. So, you know, it'd be really interesting to see where we all are in about 5 years and if we've survived. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, on a lot of levels, right?
Exactly. And I'm a person, I would love to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
And, one thing I've had to change my sails, adjust your sails with the way the wind blows. I have had to create sanctuary herds of guinea pigs that I rescued during the pandemic, but never had enough volunteers, foster homes for them to tame up these animals. They were born here or they were very young when they came in. No one had the time to put into them. So they're very highly strung, feral, if you want, guinea pigs. But I've had to create herds of them that live in a big herd, and they're happy. They are very happy. Whereas in years gone by, I would rescue them, they'd go into foster, they'd be handled, they'd be tamed, we'd find them a home. Now I'm just accepting that herd of feral guinea pigs will probably live out their lives as feral guinea pigs, happily running around. But guinea pigs live 6 to 8 years. I have a commitment there of 6 to 8 years to be feeding 25 female guinea pigs, that the chances of them ever being adopted out is 0. So that's a huge financial commitment, but it's the only way I can cope with the numbers is to create herds. And that's the easiest way. Whereas in years gone by, I would never do that. So that's one thing I've had to do. For the hard to adopt ones, they get put into the feral herd and they're happy. They run around and live their lives. That's all I can do.
Again, that's wonderful that you can do that. It's just sad that you have to do that. And again, got to weigh on you emotionally.
Right. I do need a farm property now. I need a farm property with outside buildings that are air conditioned, and I can have all these herds because of the, excess numbers that we have, and everyone will be living happily, and I'll transfer more to a sanctuary than a rescue. There'll be a rescue aspect and adoption, of course. But, that would be a nice answer. If someone liked to buy me a farm, that would be great.
If there's anybody out there with air conditioning.
Or at least build me a building with air conditioning. That would work too. But, I'll dream, Louis.
Why not?
Only dream. Why not?
If I win the Mega Millions, what is it, $1 billion now? It's like,
I know it's a lot. When are they drawing it? Was it last night, tonight, Saturday, or what?
I don't know, but we all dream. Like, what would you do with that? What would you do with that? And when I think about that, Fenella, it's just like a tiny fraction of that, I'd be set, and the people that I love would be set for as long as they live. What do you do with the rest? You donate it.
Yeah, exactly.
You donate it. And of course, my preference would be rescues and shelters, obviously. But and I'll, hate to say, because it's easy to say until you don't win, but I'll take care of that. If I win the $1 billion, I'll take care of that. I want to tell you, Julia from Rabbit Savior said that she fostered a guinea pig for you a while back.
Oh,
and she's wonderful. Yeah. Julia from Rabbit Savior. Jonathan Silva built up a wonderful organization and continues to grow exponentially. Rabbit.
Oh, how lovely! Thank you.
I also want to thank Erin, who connected us.
Yes,
she's amazing. Also,
I think
all the rabbits that they've had to round up that dumped.
A nightmare. I think as rescuers do, we just had a quick message and we were like, how are you doing? Oh, it's terrible, it's awful, and no answers, we're drowning, we're dying. And then she was like, hey, I'm going to put you in contact with Louis. So
that was beautiful. Yeah, she's wonderful. I still am waiting for her to say, yeah, Louis, I'll do the gig with you. She sends people, and I know she's busy, and I mean that very lighthearted, Erin, if you're listening, very lighthearted, but it's just, it's wonderful. And you connect with wonderful people also. Like I feel connected, obviously, with you now, Fenella. I mean, you're able to, and gives you, maybe it's waning a little bit, hope for humanity. That there are so many, we always focus on, I hate to say the bad ones, but there are a lot of loving people, yet it's overwhelming now.
Well,
you can say, I feel for you or whatever, yet that doesn't, and I believe people are sincere when they say that, yet it doesn't help. Might be nice to hear, but it doesn't help.
Right. We see some of the really good, happy stories with the animals, but the bias is for rescues, we see more of the sad stories. So we have to try and keep a balance, that there is a lot of good pet owners out there that love their small animals and do an awesome job. And we love them. There's always room for one more, by the way, you folks out there. We can always add one to your herd. But but sadly, we become a little bit biased because we hear such sad stories all the time. But yeah, balance is the secret of life in everything, right?
Fenella, I love how you, with all you're dealing with, have such an upbeat, loving way about you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure, again, maybe I shouldn't say I'm sure. My guess is you have some very dark and difficult moments because of that.
Yep.
Yet you continue, you push forward, and you do what you can.
Well, who else is going to fight for them, Louis? Who else is going to take care of them?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to train my younger volunteers and staff as best I can, because we have to train and educate these younger people so they will take on the work and do the work in the future. And they'll do it better. They'll do it different. And hopefully with a little bit of old-fashioned grounding from the old style rescuers, they'll take the best of that, and then they'll be able to put their new ideas in and move forward with a better solution, a good solution for the future. This is what my hope is.
It's and beautifully stated. It's wecompanions.org. Donations. Let's not forget to talk about your funding.
Well, our supporters are amazing. We do not get city, county, or any funding like that. Any grants that we get have to be applied for. Who's got time for that right now?
Forgive me for interrupting you, but
yeah,
of course government doesn't, because it would be, I know this is going to sound very blanket, very broad statement, but when do they do the right thing in many cases, yet they need to be more proactive with rescues in their communities or in their state. It seems that, forgive me, and again, this is not conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, whatever. They certainly find their ways to put the nation in deeper debt when they want to, yet when they should, I'm not saying all the things they do is wrong, when they should, they're AWOL. It should be state, I don't know, states, cities, counties, federal government, check out the rescue and help fund them.
Well, or bring in a law, at least a temporary law that says stop selling small pets until all the small pets in rescues have found their forever homes.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great.
Stop pouring these animals into circulation while others are being euthanized. I mean, it's sickening when you think about the flood of animals that keep being put into circulation as purchases through stores and businesses, when the city shelters are euthanizing them because they can't cope with the numbers that are coming in.
Which is awful for, and again, it's got it for everyone to I don't want to say have to euthanize a relatively healthy animal. And if you can stay with me just a couple more minutes, maybe to the bottom of the hour, if you can. I know I said I'd have you out by the top of the hour, and now we're almost half into the next hour. And I appreciate it. I've just got to share with you, a local veterinarian was telling me once, he texted me when he was in Florida. He had, he's got what is it? The heart, I don't know, whatever, something in the heart, defibrillator, whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
and it's monitored through his laptop to the Cleveland Clinic. So he's constantly monitoring, which I think is amazing technology, by the way. He tells me that the clinic called him and they said, it's not an emergency, but you had an episode and then they told him what time, how long it's lasting. It's still a little bit, but it's when he connected it to find out what was going on with me at that time. He had to euthanize one of his own dogs, as hard as it is to do others, his own dog. And he said, see, Louis, you can die from a broken heart. Fortunately, he's okay, but we fail to think about, or we don't often enough think about what it's like for the person that has to euthanize.
I can't imagine, I cannot imagine the staff that are carrying out those orders every day. And
if it's, even if it's an ill animal, or his was, to do it to a healthy animal, it's got to be horrific. But I know from my experience, when I've had to have him euthanize a rabbit, and he's had to euthanize a number of them for severe health issues. And there I am holding the bunny or whatever, and I've got tears just streaming down my face. I struggle to be able to thank them going out. I do, but it's just, I'm a mess, obviously. And they have to go on. The vets and their staff have to move on to the next animal and maybe the next euthanasia, whatever, when I can, not like a positive, go home and mourn and, and feel awful. I don't have to do that again. They do.
Shelter workers and rescuers don't have time to process.
Yeah.
There's no processing. And remember, Louis, that your body holds on to every trauma that you experience, and it's going to come out at some point, whether that's in disease or illness or mental
emotion
in the future. But when you are doing this work on a daily basis and you cannot process these traumatic events, there will be consequences.
They weigh on you. They don't go away. They don't go away because you can't, again, not that it ever goes away, but you're able to process and understand, even knowing that you're doing the right thing, even with knowledge that this animal is ill and you're helping them not be in pain or misery anymore. It still is traumatic.
Of course.
Even knowing you're doing the right thing. I just want to get back to funding for a minute. You've got people, but people can donate.
We do have many ways to donate through our website.
WeCompanions.org.
So we don't receive government funding. We only survive with donations. We have a small specialized store in San Diego that caters to these small pets, where we offer basic wellness checks and nail clipping. We do some boarding, and we sell the appropriate products for them, and we will give our expert advice whenever it is requested. So we get donations for that kind of thing, and we make a little bit from the sales, but basically we survive on donations, and we are extremely blessed. We love our supporters. I feel bad I can't always personally thank people when they make these amazing donations, but they come in from all different platforms, Benevity and PayPal, all these different ways. And I'm so busy taking care of the animals, I can't always personally thank people.
Well, I'm sure that's what the donors want you to do. I don't need, it's not about, if I'm donating, it's not about me.
I know.
Gratitude is to you.
But it is greatly appreciated, and it's the only way we can do what we can do. And most rescues do not have the opportunities that We Companions does. And therefore, I recognize how blessed and lucky we are. And, that's Spirit's work. Blessing what we do, as far as I'm concerned. So
beautiful, Fenella. And again, it's We Companions, WEE, like small, not We Companions. It's easy. We small. WEEcompanions.org. So if you want to donate, get more information, spread the word, and
you can even just buy a T-shirt. And
you've got a T-shirt on that says "We love." We Companions. Beautiful. Yeah, for listeners, there's 2 guinea pigs on the front. It's beautiful. We love We Companions. It's wonderful. You can buy those T-shirts, etc. So do what you can, folks. And I have to tell you, Fenella, I've been so long-winded today, but I hope you'll come back and update us sometime. You might say, Louis, you may tell Aaron, why did you connect me with that lunatic? I would understand. Believe me, I would understand. But I'm not just grateful to have you on today with me, but so grateful of who you are in the world. I mean,
thank you so much.
You make I get emotional. You make a tremendous difference for all the little lives that you touch. I'm sorry. I'm always very emotional. People say you shouldn't apologize for it. Well, I'm supposed to be professional. Now I'm going to get emails say, Louis, you professional? Nah, never. It's not going to happen. I am going to before I close, go into the break. I don't know. Have you heard the song San Diego Serenade by Tom Waits?
No.
I'm a Tom Waits fan. And there's another one that I keep thinking by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. People just ain't no good. Present company obviously excluded. All the lovers out there excluded. So, but I'll go into with a Tom Waits San Diego Serenade. This has been wondrous for me, Fenella.
Okay, well, thank you, Louis, and thanks for everyone for listening.
Please update when you want.
I will.
Anytime.
I will.
Anytime.
Thanks, Louis.
We're connected. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, do what you can, if you can. I've got to pull my mic over because I'm doing something a little bit different. Fenella, thank you. If you can donate